So without further ado, today we are going to talk about how saying no helped me to grow an 8-figure freight brokerage, right? Yes, you heard it. I grew the freight brokerage to 8 figures. And one of the biggest lessons I learned and one of the biggest levers that I pulled in order to do that was learning how to say no. Simple, right? It seems very simple. But as an entrepreneur, as an executive, even a salesperson, your time is always getting stolen away by other people's requests. So let me give you an example. There's always something else to do, right? And so early in my career, I was a yes guy. When somebody would ask me to do something or when a new opportunity popped its head up, I would say yes. And it took me about 10 years to realize that the jack of all trades, master of none, and spreading yourself too thin was not the secrets of success. So in my logistics company, in my freight brokerage company, what I realized and what I started implementing and disseminating throughout my organization was you have to learn that when you say yes to something, you are inherently saying no to something else because time and resources are finite, okay? So ultimately, when you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to something else because you only have so much time and resources. And so once I realized and I grasped that and I started implementing it in my business, we had huge results. But let me give you a more tangible feedback on exactly what that looked like for my business. So in 2003, late in 2003, we launched the business. And we had decided on a specific niche that we were going to go after. And that niche was Northeast outbound van freight. So if it originated in the Northeast, like New York, Mass, Connecticut, Maine, New Jersey, the Northeast corridor, right? Kind of New England. And it went west or south and it went in a van. If it picked up in the Northeast and went somewhere else, west or south, that was our original niche. Right? So I'm not going to go through exactly how we decided on that niche right now, but ultimately we decided on that niche. And I think it's very important for you to niche down your services. Not like I did necessarily, but find your own niche. So then what happened was we had aggregated a list of companies that were in that corridor, that were shipping out of that corridor, out of the New England, picking up in New England, shipping to other locations on vans. And we started doing outreach to those people. And, at first it was slow and the salespeople would come back to me, even myself, we would get feedback, but the salespeople would routinely come back to me almost daily. And they would say, yeah, but Dennis, I've got an opportunity for flatbed. Or yeah, Dennis, I've got the ability to do this guy has got loads coming into the Northeast from Chicago. Or, hey, I've got this opportunity where we can ship flatbeds from Regina, Saskatchewan down to Houston, Texas in the port at Houston. And there were all of these opportunities that did not match our niche, meaning they did not identify our target market. They were opportunities outside of our niche. And so what I did, and it was very challenging, especially with a salesperson, and even myself, I said no. So I would ask a simple question. I would say, if the salesperson was Joe, would come to me and say, hey, listen, I've got this opportunity. It's inbound Northeast freight and it's going on a flatbed. They've got loads moving every single day. And, I'd really love to quote this. My reply was no. And here is the reason why. Because number one, it wasn't our niche. It wasn't van freight and it wasn't inbound. So it did not match our niche. And the reason why I said no is because if I said yes, then what was going to happen is those salespeople were going to find the path of least resistance. They were going to go everywhere but our niche, which was Northeast outbound van freight. And so I learned how to say no and to redirect and focus them back to what our niche was, right? So long story short, after saying no hundreds of times, saying no to opportunities that were put in front of me, external opportunities, saying no to internal opportunities for my salespeople, saying no to customers that had opportunities outside of our niche. What I realized was learning to say no is challenging, but it's also a very powerful strategy. And here's why. Year one, with no experience in logistics, transportation, or freight, we did $1.2 million in sales, and we were profitable our first year. So that was a great start. I'd set a goal that year of $1 million in sales. We exceeded that goal, 1.2 million. And at or around maybe the first year or so, we started to look at other opportunities and expand our niche strategically. So we didn't just open up and say we were going to be everything to everybody, but rather than just Northeast outbound van freight, I think the next thing we looked at was Northeast outbound flatbed freight. So we expanded our niche a little bit, but it was still synergistic with what our current niche was, because a lot of the same customers that were moving vans were also moving flatbed loads. And a lot of the carriers that we were using that had vans also had flatbed, trailers. And so ultimately it was very strategic and synergistic expansion of our niche. And in year two, hallelujah, I set a goal of 3 million. We did $3.6 million in sales. So you can see I said no to hundreds of opportunities along the way that were not a part of our niche. And that can be challenging. Most entrepreneurs have a really hard time saying no, especially when you're a startup. But we were laser focused on our niche. We doubled down on it. And then we did strategic expansion of that niche. And that's how the business went for years. And, we did 1.2 million our first year, then we did 3.6, and then our third year we did 6 million, then we did 12 million, then we did 18 million. And by the time I sold that company in 2016, we were doing over $80 million a year in sales. And it was all done based upon the foundation of learning how to say no. Okay, so what you have to understand, again, you have to get this fundamental concept and this paradigm shift that you can't say yes to everything, and that by saying yes to something, you are inherently saying no, because resources are finite. Time is finite, right? And so that's the lesson that I learned. I know it's hard to say no. It's challenging to say no to opportunities that are being thrown at you. What you have to understand is, as an entrepreneur, if you're successful, you're going to find all kinds of opportunities being thrown at you. People are going to throw tons of opportunities at you. And what you have to learn how to do is you have to learn how to deflect everything that doesn't specifically fit into your core business goals. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 3 questions. I think I jotted them down here. 3 questions. 3 questions here that's going to help you to say yes to the right things and no to the wrong things. Okay, so jot these questions down. All right, question number 1 is, does it enhance your business? Does it enhance your core business offering? Does saying yes enhance your core business offering? All right, that's question number 1. Number 2, will it help me scale my business? By saying yes, will it help me scale my business? All right. And question number 3 is, does it fit into my core business goals, my core offering? Okay. So if you ask those 3 questions before you say yes to opportunities outside of your niche, you are going to be making decisions much more strategically, and you are going to see a much bigger ROI on the time, energy, and resources that you invest into those yeses, right? But what you're going to understand is that the most successful entrepreneurs in the world say no to almost everything. Okay? I'm going to tell you, almost everything. I remember there was an interview with it was a classic interview with Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. And they were asked a question, and it was something like this. The question was, what's the one thing that you attribute to the success of your business, right? If you had to say one word to attribute to the success of your business, and they said, we want you to jot it down on a piece of paper, and each of them wrote it down on a piece of paper individually, and then they gave it And then when they asked for the answer, they both turned the piece of paper over and it was one word, and the word was focus. And so the power of focus is critically important to your success. You can't be everywhere. You can't be everything to everybody. And so, the jack of all trades, master of none is a surefire way to fail in almost anything. I'm a big believer in niching down, and a part of niching down is learning how to say no. So that's my story. That's what I was able to do by saying no. And I would highly advise you learn how to say no earlier in your career than I did, and you'll probably have much more success early on. So for those of you, just a quick intro here. For those of you that are curious about becoming a freight broker or freight agent, go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com. Check it out. Trained over 7,000 students, been in business for over a decade. You can check out the Freight Broker Bootcamp page and you can see all the reviews. We've got well over 100 positive reviews from past students. So for those of you that are curious, feel free to check that out. Again, we got multiple memberships and we offer a 60-day, 100% money back guarantee. So there we are. Really appreciate you guys being here. Have an awesome week, and I'll be back next week. Talk to you soon.